Hi, it's Ken Ham, and I'm President of Answers in Genesis, the Creation Museum, and the Ark Encounter. And these are exciting days. I'm standing here at the Ark Encounter in front of a 1,500-seat restaurant. And we'll give you, it's hard to get a perspective of the size just here. We'll walk into this and walk through it a bit, but we'll scan around a little bit here just so you get the idea. And behind us, actually, we'll scan right around just to show you where we are right now. We're in front of the bow of the Ark. They're just getting ready to close up the outside of the bow. And so as we swing around here, you'll be able to see the bow. You see my wife is over there actually, and Dr. Andrew Snelling, who's our PhD geologist, who's from Australia. His wife Kim is over there, and his son Dr. Peter Snelling, who's from Australia, over visiting right now. And can you imagine sitting in this restaurant and looking at this massive wooden ship right in front of you? That's what it's going to be like when people come to this restaurant. Now, this is going to be
just
like
a stationary, otherwise they might get frightened.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be like a cafeteria. But one of the reasons that I have Andrew with me, and Andrew, just while we scan around here a bit, you have a PhD in geology from Sydney University.
Yes, the University of Sydney.
And you've done a lot of work out in the field as a geologist too.
Yes.
Even worked for some secular companies.
Fair for mining companies and also with Australian government research agencies.
And you've written a lot of research papers, even in the secular world, on geology.
That's correct.
When they say creationists haven't published, that's just simply not true.
No, I was actually, for 10 years, I was a consultant to the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation, involved in an international project looking at the uranium deposit that I worked on as a model for how nuclear waste might behave in the ground. And that had scientists from Japan and Korea, the US, the UK, from Europe as well. So it was a truly international project, and reported at scientific meetings on the findings of the project. So yes, I was the geologist with all these physicists and chemists working on that international research project.
Yeah, and you had people like Bill Nye coming up with all this nonsense. If you're a creationist, you can't be a real scientist, and he's an engineer, and he wouldn't be able to touch you on geology. And he made all sorts of false statements actually at the debate, which, because of the limited time there, I didn't have time to respond to. But we're going to respond to some of them actually in the Ark, in some of the exhibits. But tell us a little bit about the exhibits as we pan back here, so people can see you, our geologist, Dr. Andrew Snelling, who came over from Australia to be with us. We've got a few exhibits in the Ark that you're involved with.
Well, to begin with, I got together a group of biologists because we wanted to give the Ark designers information on just how many animals they had to try and show on the Ark. And of course the Bible talks about the animals went onto the Ark according to their kinds. God had created them according to their kinds. And so we had to decide, well, what were the kinds? How did we figure that out? Well, it was quite simple. You know, if animals could breed with one another, then they belong to the same kind. And so we, go through the literature to find out which animals breed with one another. And so we figure out, well, the cat kind includes the lions, the tigers, the cheetahs, the pumas, and the domestic cats, all those. And there's the dog kind, and there's a horse kind. And that's why, for example, at the Creation Museum, in the zoo there, and in the zoo here, we'll have some of those hybrid animals. Like we've got a zorse and a zonkey at the museum, so people can see, these animals can interbreed with one another, but they belong to the same kind.
And the secular world really knows this, don't they?
They do know this. Even though they talk about species, they muddy the waters by talking about species. Species are just the end product of this process of diversification that God built into the ability to the animals, so that after the flood they could repopulate the earth and split off into different species to occupy different ecological niches. But they could still interbreed with one another. You can get a cat from Africa and breed it with a cat from Asia, no problem, because they're in the same basic kind. So when you narrow down the numbers of kinds there are, and then the Bible says there were 2 of each kind and 7 of some, 7 pairs, we're going to depict it as 7. We're going to do the worst case scenario. We're not talking about many animals at all. We're only talking basically about 1,000 or so kinds. And when you add up the animals, from memory, what was the figure, Ken? Something like 2,500 animals.
Yeah, 2,500, 3,000 animals, something like that.
And many of them were small.
Yeah, most animals aren't that
so
big.
we want to answer those objections in the exhibit, and so there's going to be a lot of effort to illustrate that, including some of the animals. So people are going to find animals in the Ark that are not alive today because, well, the animals today are ones that have come as a result of breeding of the animals that went on the Ark.
So let's move in here a bit more while we talk, Andrew. We're going to give people a bit of a perspective of the size of this place. We call it Zara's Kitchen. Now, I've asked a question. If people can guess why are we calling it Zara's Kitchen, so I'm not going to answer that right now. I might think about it later on. I don't know, but I might keep them in suspense. But you can see how big, and this place enormous. A 1,500-seat restaurant is a big restaurant, and people will be able to go up onto the deck, and yeah, this is really enormous. Now, in the Ark, there's also some geology exhibits.
Geology exhibits. That was my main interest. We wanted to show people, as well as showing them what was happening in the Ark in terms of how many animals and Noah caring for the animals, how they could have done all that. We also wanted to show people what was happening outside the Ark, because people say, oh, there's no evidence for the flood, and they're looking in the wrong place. They're thinking of some local flood when the Bible talks about a global flood. And so we posed the question, we want people to think, if the flood really occurred as the Bible described, this Ark that we're depicting here, the replica, it floated on top of the mountains, the highest pre-flood mountains. There was a global ocean, and what was happening, of course, is the waters underneath were eroding off the pre-flood land surface, moving sediments. And so we would expect to find all the animals and plants that weren't on board the Ark would be swept away and with the sand and mud and be buried in those layers. And so we want to show people that fossilisation is a rapid process. Even the secularists know that if an animal dies, if it doesn't get buried and covered straight away and buried, it's going to get eaten by scavengers or it's going to rot. So we're going to have a panel showing rapid fossilisation. We're going to talk about rock layers that you can trace right across continents. We're going to talk about fossils that go through many layers, because that illustrates you have to get many layers happening very quickly to fossilise those, for example, upright fossilised trees. We're going to talk about whole layers of rock sequences that have been bent while they were still soft, otherwise they would have broken and snapped if they were already hard. We're going to talk about how the canyons form, like the Grand Canyon. We want to challenge people to think about what was happening outside of the flood,
And this is just one exhibit.
Just one
exhibit. And there's exhibits through all three decks.
That's 3 bays, and there's 132 exhibits.
Bays.
So it gives you an idea.
I'll get my videographer here a moment to come over here. Imagine being in Zara's Kitchen. Again, I want people to try to guess, why are we calling it Zara's Kitchen? And you can look out over this beautiful valley, and there's our zoo, Ararat Ridge Zoo. You can probably just see some of the buildings, and there you can see the big barns there. The one on the right is for the camels, but the other one is our petting zoo, that big barn there being the petting zoo. Let's walk back out of Zara's Kitchen. We'll chat as we're going along here, Andrew, and we'll go out and show people. I'm getting caught up in my microphone cord. Back. I just stepped on the microphone cord. That's fun of doing this stuff live and trying to get around a construction site. Okay, we're right again. All right, so Andrew, as we go down here, we're still in Zara's Kitchen. Look, this is just the bottom floor. Then there's the top floor, roof deck, 1,500 seats. I don't know of any restaurant in the Cincinnati area that's 15. There might be some that are that big. I don't know, but that's a big big restaurant.
There could be up to 10,000 people a day coming in here to feed
Actually,
them all.
possibly up to 16 on some of the busy days.
Huge operation.
It is, and we're going to open up a 600-seat reservation-only restaurant on the roof deck of the Ark where they can walk outside the Ark. But that won't be initially. We have to wait until we have the funds for that. But sometime, hopefully, within the next 6 months to 9 months, 12 months, something like that, we'll open that restaurant. But let's come out here and you can see us. We're walking towards the bow. Let's walk around the front of the Ark so people can get a little bit of a picture here. And as we go here now, there's the geology exhibit. You're involved. There's an Ice Age exhibit.
There's an Ice Age exhibit, because after the flood, we want to take people, well, what was the world like after the flood? It was a changed world. It had been destroyed, and it was a new climate developing. Things were unstable in the early decades after the flood, and so the oceans were warmer as a result of the hot waters that came out, all the volcanic activity during the flood, and so you have the perfect conditions for the Ice Age. Most people think in terms of an Ice Age requires cold conditions. No, you have to have conditions where you get more moisture going up into the atmosphere that circulates to the poles, where it cools down and can form as snow, and with all the volcanic ash still in the atmosphere, the continents were cool, and so you had rapid development of ice sheets. And you remember the Bill Nye debate, Ken? Bill Nye brought up the age of the Earth. We know it's old because of the ice cores. Well, we're going to answer that in the exhibit. We're going to show a squadron of aircraft, World War II, had to ditch in Iceland and landed on the ice, and then people went back 50 years later to try and locate them and found that they were down about 250 feet under the ice, and they had to get tunneled down through the ice to recover them. We want to show people that it doesn't take thousands of years to build up feet and feet of ice. You just got to have the right conditions, and that would have been what it was like after the flood.
And I don't know whether Bill Nye is going to come to the Ark. I'm willing to personally show him through.
Absolutely.
And I'm willing to bring him down here, and he can have a free ticket.
Yes.
If he will come. I'll personally show him through. But regardless, we're going to have a little video clip of Bill Nye from the debate in one of the exhibits.
That's right, and we're going to have Bill Nye's statement about the ice cores, and then Ken is going to be answering it and explaining to people what we have in the diorama, which shows that lost squadron that was buried in the ice.
And in fact, I even mentioned that in the debate. I didn't have time much to do much, and even in the rebuttal, you only get a short time. And I'm convinced when you're doing a debate on stage, or even speaking on stage, that the speed of light speeds up and time speeds up.
Well, people can argue, he's got the best evidence, but it's really not about the evidence. It's how you interpret the evidence, the world around you, and that's the issue in the debate, not whether Bill Nye's got more evidence or we've got more evidence. No, it's how you arrive at your conclusions about the evidence.
And he brought up lots of supposed evidences, but he had the wrong interpretation of them.
Well, they were all red herrings. Yeah. He was not facing up to the basic issue of how we interpret the evidence in the present to project what was happening in the past. And you hammered that point all the way through.
That's why I actually concentrated on talking about the belief aspect of origins versus...
Right. And we have a book.
Right.
Of an eyewitness who was there, and that's the point why we can build this ark. We have a record from the eyewitnesses of what the scale of the ark was, so we can take that written eyewitness account and reproduce here for people's edification and understanding, so they can really come to grips that this wasn't a fairy story, it wasn't a myth, it was actual history, real history. It could happen, and it did happen, just as the Bible says.
And the Ark has got a very different feel to the Creation Museum. I mean, the Creation Museum is a walk through the Bible, specifically deals with creation, evolution, and so on. This is much more concentrating on the flood, the life of Noah.
Well, to start with, the museum, the Creation Museum, the building itself is just a building. Here at the Ark itself is an exhibit.
Exactly.
So that's what gives it a different feel altogether.
Now we'll look over the back there. You can see the restaurant there now, and there's Dr. Andrew Snelling's son taking a photograph, and we're standing here at the bow. We are looking down here as we scan back around. You can see the valley at the back there, and what we might be able to do is just do a 360 here, just keep turning around, and so you can get an idea of sort of where we are as we come around. You'll be able to see some of the construction trailers that are there, and construction equipment, and then we come back to where the Ark is over here, and you get a whole view of the Ark. Then Andrew, you and I will walk up there under the bow, so we get an idea again of the size of that bow.
We're going to look really small.
We're going to look really small. Oh, I can see my wife sitting there at the front pier.
It's 110 feet up to the top of the sail.
Let's go over and meet our wives, Andrew. Let's go over there and do that. So we'll have our video follow us here. It's windy today, but that's a good thing. And the reason that's a good thing is because it'll help dry the ground out.
Well, that reminds me of what it says in Genesis chapter 8. God remembered Noah, and he sent a wind to dry the ground out so the waters would recede. So we're really simulating what it was like.
So let's come over here, and people see how big this place is. They're just getting ready to put the final sheeting on the outside of the bow and seal that up. Then they can finish off some of the air conditioning and fire suppression inside. And well, look at this. They're sitting there in chairs. So
They're waiting for the restaurant to open.
waiting for the restaurant to open. Yes, yeah, you have to come back in a month. About a month. I know people will say, "You sure it's going to be open in a month?" You'd be surprised at how much they're doing. All the infrastructure's in, and there we are. Look up at. Wow, look at that. Beautiful day today.
So they didn't call it Mally's Kitchen for obvious reasons.
No, they called it Emzara's Kitchen.
So you
now,
kept them
okay,
in suspense.
kept them in suspense. Emzara. Well, there are Jewish history books that gave Noah's wife the name of Emzara.
Right.
Now, it's not in the Bible, so it's not biblical, right? But it's a sort of Jewish tradition.
Well, that's okay, because we know they didn't have a kitchen like that at the Ark. They didn't have their kitchen was inside.
Inside, actually, we do have Noah's living quarters inside,
and a kitchen.
It's an incredible exhibit. I just walked through it, and it's mind-blowing.
We can get away with that because we've got this restaurant here.
Exactly,
that's
and they're actually going to give Noah's wife in the Ark the name of Emzara, and we're going to have Noah's kitchen in there. I was just looking at the kitchen. I couldn't believe it. It's better than our kitchen at home, but it's very unique. It's very different.
They had iron and bronze, so they were pretty advanced.
They had all sorts of stuff, but people are fascinated to walk through Noah's living quarters, and they'll meet Emzara, they'll meet Noah's wife, and then they'll be able to go to Emzara's kitchen. I just hope she was a really good cook.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what's on the menu.
And yes, actually, I'm sure she was a very good cook, because this is going to be very high quality food at inexpensive prices. I hate going to places where the food quality is not that good. That's and you feel like you get ripped off. We don't do that here. This is high quality food and reasonable prices for families. That's what we're trying to do, as we do at the Creation Museum.
We want them to come back for a second or third and a fourth day.
Actually,
they'll come back.
You must admit, as we're walking through today, we're talking about the fact that this is not just a one-day place.
No, not at all. It'll take them a day for each deck virtually, and then they've got the zoo as well. So, hey, and then we'll be adding more features in the years ahead.
And then the Creation Museum, a lot of people spend 2 days there.
That's right.
You may as well come for a week. You know what? You may as well come here to Northern Kentucky for your vacation. We're going to offer a 7-day unlimited ticket, $99 per person.
Wow, that's a great deal. 7 days for $99
You can
for
go
both facilities.
Both facilities, go back and forth as much as you want, and parking is included.
Wow.
And that'll be per person.
You can't get that in Disney.
No, you certainly can't. And people will be able to come here, and in the area we have the Newport Aquarium, we have the Cincinnati Reds, the Cincinnati Zoo, Kings Island.
But hey, we're offering far more than what Disney offers.
And that's true, we are. And in fact, you can pay high prices for some of these places and line up for 3 hours and get 4 rides and go home. Here you'll be able to go through the Ark and each deck and all the exhibits. They're fascinating. It's going to be. I think people will be in shock actually when they see what is inside the Ark here. But ArkEncounter.com, ArkEncounter.com. For more details. We're launching a new attractions website at the end of this month, so just over a week's time, and it'll have the new 7-day unlimited ticket and other ticket options as well for people to come. Opens July 7, that's the first day it's open to the public.
So is that available in the first 40 days and 40 nights?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So they could come during the day or at night as well, and then we're going to have extended hours at the Creation Museum for the first 40 days and 40 nights. But what we're doing is having 40 daytime entries and 40 nighttime entries for the first 40 days, and the daytime entries are from 9 to 4, and then the evening time entries are 5 to midnight, and that'll be for the first 40 days and 40 nights.
So it's not too late for people to change their vacation plans and come here?
No, it is not.
Forget Florida, come here.
And the 7-day unlimited ticket will be you can come anytime you want to the Creation Museum, to the Ark, over that period of 7 consecutive days. So with that, one more look at the bow here, and one more look at Emzara's kitchen as well. So we'll just have a look at the bow as we scan up here, and then we'll just scan around, look at Emzara's kitchen, and I am running out of battery, so we need to stop here in a moment. We'll see if we've got enough battery to scan around and see Emzara's kitchen one more time. The 1,500 seat restaurant, and I know they're putting in the kitchen equipment in about a week's time, and we need to pray we get some really good weather for the next month. Weather like today would be wonderful. We could have today's weather for the next month. That would really be a help to us. So with that, Dr. Andrew Snelling and myself, Ken Ham, here we are at the Ark Encounter, and so we're going to sign off and say, hey, we look forward to seeing you down here beginning July 7th.
Yep, see you here then.